Hi, I'm Sarah.
And I'm Amy.
We both grew up with dads who drank too much.
So we are both adult children of alcoholics.
And we're here to talk about our experiences using honesty and some pretty dark humour. We'll be chatting to a variety of people affected by alcohol addiction.
Our dads were both called Steve and they're both dead now, which means we can finally have the conversations we've wanted to.
You had to go there already, didn't you?
We've had a lot of experiences between us and we are both really passionate about helping other people.
So let's sit back, relax and join us with Sarah and Amy, Children of Alcoholics podcast.
And welcome to another episode of Sarah and Amy, the Children of Alcoholics podcast. And today we are joined by Quint Boa. Hello, Quint.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks.
So, Quint, we have kind of come across you a little bit before. You've got your own story around being a COA and your own recovery, and you do a lot of work in that space now. So tell us a little bit.
Well, my father was an alcoholic. His name was Bruce Boa. He was an actor. He was a man who wanted a Waldorf salad in Fawlty Towers. He was American. Apples, celery, walnuts, grapes. And he was in Empire Strikes Back and Full Metal Jacket. And anyhow, so he played a stereotypical large American. And he was a raging alcoholic. And I was raised in that household. And it wasn't the worst place to be raised, but it was definitely a difficult, difficult time of life to be raised in, a difficult childhood. Inconsistent parenting, I think, is what a shrink might call it. And then he got sober when my sister was born, and things sort of got a little bit more equilibrium. And then I started drinking when I was 15, 16 years old, and carried on sort of normally drinking in terms of what normal is for a 20-year-old and a 30-year-old. And gradually it started to increase until it became as unmanageable. And I quit probably, I think now 10, 11 years ago. Yeah. And that's, in a nutshell, my story. And I'm so glad I did. I mean, we can get into that maybe later on. But no, the carousel of crap that is drinking, especially late stage alcoholism or late stage alcohol misuse disorder, I believe is what the Americans call it, is not a fun place to be. And I'm very, very lucky to be here as well. I mean, I didn't run into too many legal problems. My marriage is still intact. My relationship with my kids is still fine. And I'm still economically solvent, which was good.
Always a winner.
Yeah.
So when your dad was drinking and kind of had his own addiction, what ages were you when you kind of became aware of it, and then when he stopped?
Well, really, he was a drunk until I was the age of 8. And when I say he was drunk, he was absolutely off his face all the time. In fact, he lived in the front room and didn't emerge, obviously, unless he'd had a few drinks. And being an actor, he had it very lucky because at the time, if you could do a TV commercial. Now, I'll give you some context, and you can edit out what you don't want of this. But so he was a physically large American actor. He was 6'4", 6'5", and thick set. And there was only about 4 or 5 of them in the UK at the time. So if you're going to do a casting for an American CIA agent or a general, you only had 4 or 5 to choose from. So maybe only 1 or 2 are available. So he'd get the job in The Saint, or he'd get the job on the Troubleshooters or whatever TV show. And if there were commercials, he would be one of the people that you might get. So, for example, he did Samurai cigarettes, and he did Double Diamond beer, and he did ski yogurt. And each one of those commercials was worth $3,000, which is not a lot by today's standards. But in the time, the early 60s, obviously, 2 or 3 of those, you can buy a house, right? So all he had to do was stay sober long enough to get through the commercial, and he was set to continue on his own behavior for as long as he wanted to. He didn't have to hold down a regular job, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I suppose the parameters of a traditional 9 to 5, my dad had a very traditional kind of corporate job.
Yeah.
And I think the wheels probably came off earlier in terms of losing driving licenses and things like that, because it becomes so immediately obvious. Whereas, as you've said, an actor larger than life, slightly odd hours, probably went a little bit more unnoticed.
Yeah. I mean,
do you think as well that because of his acting, do you think that he was able to disguise his drinking more?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I know my dad, for instance, developed this amazing ability to act like everything was okay, that he was fine, that he was sober. So I'd imagine your dad's acting kind of gave him an upper advantage, didn't it? Really.
Yeah, I mean, to both your points, I think, certainly in my experience, you put on a persona because what you can't afford people to do is notice that you're drunk. Yeah. And so you're constantly like eating mince, and you're not mince meat, obviously. That's ridiculous. I mean, like polo mince or treble mince. So you're constantly got this persona on because the most important thing is you're not seen for what you are, which is pissed, drunk. And that allows you then to be sort of a little bit larger than life, a little bit more expansive. And why don't we just go to the pub at lunchtime, and it's not because I desperately need to, because I've left my own devices. I'll be banging on the door at 11 o'clock in the morning. It's because, I really quite fancy a tipple, it's a bit naughty, shall we,
Well, you only need someone to encourage you.
Oh, God, yeah.
You always need a partner in crime.
Yeah, an enabler.
Yes.
Yeah. Which in media is ever so easy to get. I mean, even to less so today than in the past. But yes, to keep up that front for a day or for 2 days on a shoot, it's got to be a lot easier than to keep it up on a 9 to 5. I mean, I tried to keep up on a 9 to 5, and it wasn't easy. Eventually you get tumbled. I mean, you're kidding yourself if people you don't know, because I know now. I mean, I'm sure. There are people in my social circle I definitely know are struggling with it. And there's only so much you can do to help.
I call loads of people out all the time.
Do you?
Yeah. And John, my husband, he'll say, "You don't know that." I do. I just know. Really angry.
You can spot one, right? I mean, because you've got those spider senses.
It's true though. There is those senses, isn't it? You're just so alert to people's behaviour, their mannerisms. You can just tell.
Look, we were watchful as kids, right? Because being watchful meant the difference between getting a hit and a hug. So we were totally watchful and anxious. You know? And then that's going to stay within us as we grew up. That's just been one of our survival mechanisms. And
so he stopped when you were 8. Mm-hmm. Did you ever have a conversation? And did he ever start again? Did you ever have a conversation around?
No, he just quit, and that was it. I was always very intimidated by him, and I didn't really want to get into conversations like that with him, and still don't. Sometimes I have dreams though, Amy, when I'm talking to him about it. I'm still trying to converse with him in my dreams about it. But I never did have that conversation. But to his credit, he stayed stopped all his life, right the way through. And he was evangelical about it in AA, because I had time in AA. People come up to me and say, "Well, he was a Marmite character." Why is that? Well, he was a Marmite character because he'd stand up and he'd preach. He'd preach about how great it is to be sober and to stay on the pink cloud and how wonderful it all is. But it was preaching. It was still the big I am. He was a dry drunk. He didn't really do the moral inventory and do the amends and things like that. I know that from other sources. So
when you then started to go down a similar route, did he ever pull you aside and say?
I went to him a couple of times when I was absolutely, really on low ebb and said, Bruce, Dad, I think I've got a problem here. And he go, well, you think you got problems. You think that's a lot of drink? Well, let me tell you, when I was drinking, I did this. It's like, it's still a pissing contest with him about who's drinking what. And I'm like, I'm having the big moment here, and all you're doing is making it some sort of challenge. It's like, it was ridiculous.
My dad used to do that. Did he? Yeah. You think you've got it bad. I've got it worse. It's completely invalidating. And it always made me feel like I was being dramatic. Yeah.
So I probably had the opposite. I was becoming uncomfortable with my relationship with alcohol about 4 years ago. But for probably 2 to 3 years prior to that, I had used my dad as a benchmark for why I wasn't that bad.
Okay, yeah.
So I'd almost done the opposite, which was ridiculous because he was 26 years older than me. But it got to the point where I couldn't hand on heart saying 26 years down the line, I wouldn't be exactly the same as him.
Yeah.
But comparing yourself in your late 30s to an end stage alcoholic is very different. But that's what I did because it made me feel better and reassured about my relationship.
Yeah. With me, what kept me out of AA was that I'd go to an AA meeting and I'd hear them say, I flipped the car, I hit my wife. And these are all reasons why I could go to Oddbins on the way back, And I didn't, because I never flipped the car and I never hit anyone. And as far as Bruce went, my father, I didn't want to be like him, which kept me out of AA because I had my pride. I didn't want to be as bad as he was. So I certainly wasn't going to go to AA. And it kept me out in some, perverse way. There's pride.
Yeah. Was you in denial?
Yeah, definitely. Because it was compare and despair. I mean, there was no way that I was that I was as bad as anybody who was an alcoholic because I can still control it, right? Because I cannot drink from Monday through to Thursday, apart from the fact that actually most Wednesdays I was drinking and perhaps, Monday nights I was drinking. But that's the bargaining that goes on with end stage alcoholism. I mean, if that's,
Yeah, you can always find a reason.
Yeah, definitely.
My dad used to justify it was part of his job, was corporate entertaining, or that was just what their whole peer group and social circle did.
Yeah.
And he was a member of Round Table. And then he affiliated himself with a running club that the tagline was, we're a drinking club with a running problem. Kind of always would align himself with people who would encourage in a very light-hearted manner that behaviour.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I mean, for me, I mean, I was a media darling, wasn't I? So, I mean, we can get, hammered anytime we want, because that's what we do in media. We're all very sort of Patsy and Amy. Patsy and
Eddie.
Eddie, yeah. It was all darling, shall we? It was wine o'clock and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And you could get away with it. It was endorsed.
Do you think it's a case of nurture or nature?
Look, okay, wow.
There's a question.
Welcome to episode 1. Is it nurture or nature? So you got genetics, you got nurture, nature, you've got, I'm always nervous of that question because it might set whoever's listening to this, on some sort of epistemological quest as to, I know, let's just go to ground zero. Let's try and find out what the actual root of whatever it is that I'm going through. And then maybe I'll be able to address it. There's sort of reductionist approach of if I can just pick it into certain granular little nitty gritty pieces, then I'll be able to work out what it is. And then I'll be able to drink like a normal human being. And the jury's out. The jury's out for me on whether it's nurture or whether it's nature. I just know that for me, it is. I mean, you've also got allergy, of course. So that goes in there somehow, and I don't know if that's a nurture or nature. For me, it just is. It's like kryptonite. If I drink, then that's it. I just go. There's a phase transition. Like water turning into gas or turning into ice. It just alters. And whatever I was thinking before, you give me a bottle of Sauvignon Blanc or a couple of shots of Jack Daniels, and it's bang. I'm just a different person. And then the different rules apply, and it could be weeks, months before I get my equilibrium back. But I know, that I could make an equal, if you had to, I could make an equal case for nature or nurture, with twin studies and genetics and there's some sort of unholy alliance between the two.
Yeah.
But the other thing, which I think is really interesting, is what's coming out of fMRI scans now, and with the studies in neurology and neurochemistry, with especially around dopamine, is how the neural pathways, the addiction response happens, and how in particular it messes up the frontal cortex, which is the decision-making part of the brain, and once that starts to get messed with, that provides for me quite a strong argument for why it's impossible to change the decisions, why your decision-making is so blurred. Because if I looked at my behavior rationally, I would think, this is nuts. What I'm doing here is definitely insane, and I have to stop doing this. But somehow what booze does is it messes with your ability to think straight, such that it's you just can't get some. You end up in a hall of mirrors. And
I still find I kind of completely get the science and the research around it. I still find it really difficult conversations, because all I take away as the child of an alcoholic is it was really crap, and you can give me all of the reasons and all of the science, but I'm still and I understand it and I don't disagree with it, but I guess on an emotional level I still can't quite move on from that was really, really crap. And sometimes I find the not justification, that's the wrong word. I find the evidence and the science behind it really challenging. And like I said, that's not because I disagree with it. It's because actually I don't want a reason for it. I just want an acknowledgement that actually you can give me all the evidence you want, but you should have done better.
From them, did you get a personal acknowledgement that they... Did you not?
Nope.
Okay.
No. So my dad never, ever... I think he had admitted... He kind of had admitted broadly that he might have a problem, and he talked about moderating a lot. And if he was ever put into hospital and detoxed, he'd talk about, dialing it down. I mean, when he died, notebooks and notebooks and diaries with how many units he'd drunk every day. So mad. He was... Like just scribblings everywhere. He was clearly very much battling something. But not once to me did he say, I'm an alcoholic and I need help. He never apologized for anything. And he died quite suddenly. But then weird things, when he died, in his Amazon basket was a book about children of alcoholics. So he clearly carried an awful lot of guilt and, worry about my sibling and I. But he was... a different generation, and certainly had no kind of time for poor mental health or any of those conversations.
He knew, didn't he?
Yeah, but we never had a conversation about it. Whether or not he did with other people, I don't really know. He had quite a distant life from us towards the end of his life. He lived about 90 miles away. So his social circle was very different. But I did always think, when I pictured his death, which I had done for probably 20 years, I always knew that he would die because of his addiction. My assumption was we would get a phone call, he'd be in a hospital, we'd know it was the end, and then he would say sorry. That was, in my head, that was the way that was going to go down. And it didn't. It's very irritating.
It's wishful thinking, isn't it? I got acknowledgement off my dad.
Did you?
Towards the end, he was crying, he was really emotional, and he said to me, I know I'm the reason why you're so anxious. Because at the time I was really struggling with anxiety disorder. And he said to me that I know that's me. I know I'm the reason. And he knew that he had a problem and he didn't want to be like it, but he couldn't help it. But even towards the very end, like days before he died, and I said to him, Dad, I think you have liver disease or liver failure. He was adamant that he was fine.
Oh, so he was in denial there.
He was in denial there, and he died 3 days later.
But you'd had a period of your dad being sober, and then he died quite quickly when he relapsed, didn't he?
So he had 16 months of sobriety, but there are a lot of signs looking back that I think he knew that he had some kind of cirrhosis of the liver.
Yeah.
There was a lot of physical symptoms that he'd talk about, and looking back, when I would look at him now, all the telltale signs were there, you know, the distended abdomen, the capillary veins, so like veins that come up on your tummy. I remember going swimming with him, and he was very self-conscious, like covering all around his chest, his belly. But everywhere else on him was quite slim and slender.
Yeah.
So I think he knew towards the end. And then his dad died March 2017. And then, my dad relapsed 4 months later.
Oh.
But this time he hit it hard. So rather than going for weaker, like cider, lager, wine, he was going for, that we know of, a litre of vodka a day.
Right.
And that kind of finished him off.
Yeah.
Well, that was the end.
They say that there is some evidence that Amy Winehouse is the poster girl for that you know, you come off it, you go back on it, and you go back on it at the same level that you went as you came off it. But you're older and your body you just poison yourself.
He was told if he goes back, a doctor said to my dad, if you drink again, you'll die. Yeah. And I don't think he believed them. I think he felt like he was invincible, like it weren't that much of a big problem, but I think so did I. Looking back, I think so did I. And going back to the whole comment about invalidation and feeling like I was being dramatic, even when I could see that he was really poorly, I still believed him when he told me he was fine. And I still thought that I was being dramatic by insisting that he went to the hospital. And now in hindsight, looking back, I wish I would have done that. And it took a lot of therapy for me to get over that it weren't my fault that I didn't kill him. Because when he died, I thought, I should have taken him. I should have put him in an ambulance. But I know now that's not my fault. But at the time, it's really difficult to come to terms with. Yeah, it was really tough. Really tough.
No, poor thing.
But
very difficult.
Now Amy and I just make dark humour jokes about it.
Right.
Whatever gets you through.
Yeah. Open mechanism.
We're all just whistling in the dark, aren't we?
But you've kind of changed career paths a little bit off the back of your experience, haven't you? And your kind of work with films, you've done some animations and things around addiction, and you've actually qualified as I always get it wrong.
Well, psychotherapist.
There we go.
Yeah. Well, yes. So my pathway when I trained as a psychotherapist is just shrink, and I got UKCP and a few other letters after my name, and then in the year 2000. When it became possible for video footage to be ingested by computers, I set up a production company. And that went from a 2-man band in my daughter's bedroom in Kingston into what is now a global video and animation production company. And doing basically corporate animation video for businesses. But then after COVID, what happened was that a friend of mine, a teacher, was beaten up by a student, and she said to me, we'll have to take out the expletives, but she said, "Will you please stop making videos for insert American bank here, and start making videos for teachers who are struggling with children with special educational needs?" And I said, "Well, what animation would you want?" She said, "One on anger." And I said, "Well, okay, you write the voiceover script and we'll do it." So she wrote the voiceover script and we did an animation on anger. Yeah. And that's still used to this day in that school. And then we started doing other videos on anxiety, childhood anxiety, on depression, and on alcoholism. And those were uploaded to my website and downloaded. They can be downloaded free of charge. And there have been, I think, 250,000 times. I need to check that. And that felt good, right? I mean, how many videos can you actually make for insert American bank here? And that's not going to feed your soul. We'll do up to a point. Certainly feed the family, and that's no small thing. But that's really that ticks the box for me for animation, because I'm a huge evangelist for animation as a communications resource. But it also does. I think animation is a great way to communicate really complex ideas in creative and relatable ways. And with social media and mobile phones the way they're at the moment, it's a terrific resource. So yes, now I'm combining my interest in psychotherapy and psychology with animation. And with the rise of AI, I think that's just going to happen more and more and more.
And animation's a really effective tool when talking about kind of abstract concepts, isn't it? Because you can put your own experience over the top. Is that right?
Yeah.
So if you've got physical actors, you maybe don't identify with them, but animation, you can essentially kind of create that narrative in your head.
Yeah, I mean, there's a load of reasons why. I mean, Walt Disney put the emotion in motion. It's said. So he with I mean, what's your favorite Walt Disney film?
Oh, all of them. We went to Disney last year.
Did you?
Well, you've never seen such a happy little smile on my face.
Oh, which one? What's your favorite then? Sleeping. I'll list them out. You can go 1 to 10. So
I like Sleeping
All right.
Beauty.
So
I think it's Tangled.
Yeah.
I quite like Rapunzel.
Oh,
Tangled's a good one, actually.
And also because my daughter watched it, that was her film and she was a toddler. So it brings back really lovely memories.
Yeah.
But she was a little bit sparky. I like that.
Snow White for me.
Yeah.
I think that's because that's the first Disney animation that I ever watched as a little girl.
Yeah.
Snow White.
Yeah.
And the Wicked Witch.
Yeah. And when that
that.
camera,
Yeah.
so Snow White's lying there, the 7 dwarves are around her and they think she's dead. And then the camera pulls back off her and it goes around to the dwarves and they've all got these great big tears rolling down their eyes. And then the camera pans up and there's all the woodland creatures all peering through the window and they're all crying as well. And I'm starting to fill up even thinking about it. And that's animation, right? That's cell animation from the 1950s. And the point there is that you just got 9 men and Mary Blair, who's an animator, creating these animations that communicated these ideas, and that still applies to today. You can very, very cost effectively now produce an animation that addresses some of the subjects we're talking about today with a voiceover. You can swap that voiceover output into German, French, Italian, Spanish. You can slice and dice it for different, platforms, channels and formats like, TikTok or Instagram or put it on. You can take stills out of it and put it up onto a billboard. So it's great for a national campaign. And to your point, Amy, we were asked by UNICEF to do an advert for AIDS in Nigeria. And we had to cast a Nigerian who was HIV positive. Well, we couldn't cast one because no one would come forward as a male who had HIV, right? Because they all had tribal markings and they wouldn't do it. So he said, look, this is practically impossible. Because if you see somebody physically there, video is so literal that because of the way the human brain is, you just automatically trying to predict and that prejudice comes in. Whereas if it's a character animation, you suspend judgment because you want to see what happens to that character. You're not imposing and projecting ideas onto them. Sorry, I'm babbling on about animation here, but those are some of the reasons why I think it's a great resource.
But I think any mental health, so I know you've done ones around neurodivergence and anxiety and other kind of mental health conditions. Yeah. And actually that does feel different for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
My child's ADHD looks very different to another child's ADHD.
Yeah, yeah.
So actually, it has to be accessible and relatable.
Yes.
My COA story doesn't necessarily correspond to Sarah's or to yours or to somebody else's. Yeah. However, so many of the themes and the feelings are the same, or not necessarily exactly the same, but the same generally. And if you put a load of COAs in a room together, it's really, really powerful. We went to an event last week and we stayed in a hotel. We ended up having breakfast on Thursday morning with a group of people. And I mean, gosh, if you were delivering the avocado and eggs, you'd have thought we were one hell of a dark and twisted troop of people.
We're all just sat there so naturally talking about it. So naturally, isn't it? Like almost like, this is all our trauma. We're just trauma dumping everything, and we're all bonding over all of this shared trauma. Yeah. But
actually, when you do have a shared experience like that, which let's face it, isn't the norm.
Yeah. Yes.
albeit, you know, kind of 1 in 5. But when you do meet other people who are out there and prepared to talk about it, you do absolutely latch onto those people. There's such a power.
Yeah,
and that's why NACOA, for example, you know, the personal experiences, they're so relatable. Again, the story might not be exactly the same, or the time frame, or, you know, it could be a dad, it could be a mum, it could be, you know, whatever. But those feelings are so identifiable. And I remember when I first found them, it was the personal experiences for me that drew me in. And it was the first time I'd ever read anything where I thought, oh, thank God, that wasn't just me.
Yeah.
You know, I was genuinely quite relieved when my dad finally died.
Yeah.
I couldn't say that to, you know, couldn't just tip up at work and go, well, actually, if anything, it's a bit of a relief. Like, you just can't. I mean, you can and you should be able to, because that's how I felt.
Yeah.
But actually reading somebody else say those things really validated it.
Yeah.
How would you create an animation from your perspective around being a COA? What feelings would you want to capture? Is that quite a deep question?
Well, first, if I can try and fold in a sort of response to Amy's, what Amy's just said, I mean, the opposite of addiction is connection. I really feel that. And it's only when I heard other people talking in the way that I was feeling that I caught on with that. And I think there's something about a group being together, whether that's breakfast over prawn cocktails or whatever you're having.
Avocado, for goodness sake.
First thing in the morning.
It looked quite good, actually.
Did you have food envy?
No, I did a little bit have food envy. Yeah. And tea envy. The tea was pretty impressive. But now we're going off topic.
But, so one of the, so in terms of creating an animation, what I suppose what I would want to create in the animation is the sense that, you know, there is so much uncertainty and so much anxiety within that uncertainty of growing up as a child of an alcoholic. And the family home is not normal, but that's the only thing you've been aware of. And so it feels normal. That's your normal. And you don't know any different. You've got nothing to compare it to. You know, it's like asking one of my tropical fish back home, you know, describe the water that's all around you. He hasn't got a clue, or she hasn't got a clue.
No, she's a fish.
No, she's a fish. Why? She doesn't even speak. I mean, we're getting too whimsical here. But there's no point. But you have to. So the animation would start with this. You know, this may feel normal to you, but this isn't. Trust me, this isn't. And work towards some sort of reconciliation where what normal actually is can be made clear, and out of that uncertainty, you know, there's some sort of resolution from going from one to the other. Because it's not just the alcoholic parent or parents. It's the parental reactions to one another. It's the in-laws. It's the economic uncertainty. It's the physical uncertainty. It's the legal uncertainty. You know, and you know, I shudder to think of some of the things I was doing when I was drinking, and it's that uncertainty that thank God, you know, being sober, you know, resolves. When I'm in AA, one of the largest or some of the most moving shares come from parents who have reconciled their differences with their children, teenage children. And unfortunately, some of the most painful are some of the parents who haven't been able to reconcile, you know, and who may not ever be able to reconcile because of one thing and another. And that's just one of the painful results of alcoholism.
Yeah, I can see that completely. But, you know, in terms of help and support that a child would be given if they were phoning the NACOA helpline, that absolutely feeds into that. You have to make choices to look after yourself.
Yes.
Now that's hard when you're a young child and you have, you have to live in that house. Where, you know, where are you going to go?
Exactly.
However, there will come a point, every day you can make choices, and that can be to pick up the phone and phone a helpline. It could be that you confide in somebody. It could be that you have a hobby that makes you feel better.
Yes.
But ultimately, you also have to accept the fact that for now, the outcome for most of them is that you are living with that parent.
Yeah.
But you're right. Sometimes you don't know. It's only now when so I'm that person, I'll tell a story around a table and just see everybody else looking at me and I go, oh, did you not do that? But like we used to go to France every year on holiday.
Yeah.
And we were only allowed to take one suitcase. We always had quite a big, estate car.
Yeah.
But we were only allowed to take one suitcase.
Uh-huh.
And that was because we would stop at the hypermarket in Calais.
Yeah.
My dad did that.
And I'm not joking.
I did that.
The car would be. So my brother and I would have boxes of stubbies between us, like a barrier in the back seat. We'd have crates of wine under our feet. We'd have wine in the glove boxes. Every single piece of space in that car.
I had the same, exactly the same.
And clearly, these are not the actions of other people on holiday.
Yeah.
But it was just a thing. Well, we can only take 3 pairs of knickers because we've got to fit all these booze in.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a very light-hearted anecdote around it. But it never occurred to me that that was questionable behaviour.
Yeah.
That was just what we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, well, look, you nailed it.
I'm just stumped because it's so relatable.
Yes. I'm still in my mind, so I can still see the place.
Yeah.
Right? I bet we've got the same.
And the smell. It's like the smell and the place.
Yeah, and that frisson. Listen, that frisson around it. Oh, we're going to go and we're going to save money. We're trophy shopping. We're going to save money. We're going to get all this booze, and it's all very exciting. We're going to be able to get pissed as much as we want because we're on holiday. What?
But the booze cruise.
Yeah.
And picking P&O over Sea France because you got a free bottle of wine with one of them. That's true.
But you don't know if you don't know. So I did a year 11 PHSE lesson recently in a local school, and their topic was, it was a GCSE class and it was about parental drinking. So you've got an hour.
Okay.
So you start there with this huge whiteboard and a load of, 15, 16-year-olds. I took a lot of chocolate coins to bribe them because it's a challenging topic, either if you do have an experience or you don't have an experience. If you do have an experience, you are going to want the ground to swallow you up and you're not going to say anything that might pick you out as having any form of knowledge.
Yeah.
And if you don't have an experience, to some extent, alcoholism is a joke. Like it's a funny... if we think about the birthday cards that we can buy or kind of, jokes around drinking. So you've got an hour and we literally started and I just wrote parental drinking on the whiteboard and then just sort of did this crazy spider diagram. I thought, what could happen? And by the end of it, this whole wall was covered with sort of different outcomes of, might lose their job, might lose their home, and sort of going off in all these different places, might have to live with grandparents, might fail exams. And, all of these things which are really valid concerns if you're living with parental addiction. And then I remember a child saying, what's the difference between living with a parent who drinks and a parent who doesn't? So everything on that board is the difference.
Oh, God.
Everything on that board are genuine and valid concerns that somebody with a parent who's drinking too much might have.
Yeah. And the kids, how many of the kids were volunteering information?
Well, it was sort of a really broad discussion. They were all brilliant, probably because of the chocolate coins.
Sure.
Granted.
Hyper. Yeah.
But really interesting that you could just see that switch go off. And they thought, right, it's not just that your parent is drinking maybe in the evening in front of the TV.
Yeah.
Actually, the wider impact on both the family and society is huge. And that was very much part of the course they were doing. But it was like a real light bulb moment going, oh, right, that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
I used to just assume my dad was dead all the time, all the way through school.
Because he caned it so hard that
Yeah, well, I didn't live with him from kind of midway through secondary school.
Right.
So I used to go down to the payphone because I'm that old. But I used to go to the payphone every morning and phone his office. And when he picked up the phone, I'd hang up and go to my class because that was the only way I knew if my dad was alive.
Oh, Jesus. All right. Yeah.
As he got older, we didn't always necessarily want to speak to him because he was a monumental pain in the backside a lot of the time. And we had sort of sometimes you had to make that choice to say, do you know what? I haven't got it in me to phone him this week. I can't.
Yeah, you had to compartmentalize.
But I used to check WhatsApp to see, because WhatsApp used to tell you the last time somebody had been online.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember having to compartmentalize when I spoke to my dad. Almost allocate myself certain worry times to speak to him. And then once I'd finished speaking to him, I could be like, right, okay, focus on everything else now. And I used to ring ahead to my mum, asking what mood is he in?
Okay.
Yeah. Is he in a good mood? Is he in a bad mood? Is he drunk? Can I come home? And then based off mum's answer or even his tone of voice, if he picked up the phone, I'd decide whether I was staying out with friends or coming home.
Oh my God, the tone of voice when he answered the phone. You could tell.
Straight away.
This is it. But
my God.
We're so sensitive to that because, hit, hug, our spider senses are just there.
He got more... He sort of went from being reasonably normal, but quite well spoken normally, to literally sounding like an extra from Downton Abbey.
What, received pronunciation?
Oh my goodness.
Really?
Oh,
he's covering it up,
goodness.
right? I mean, that's...
Yeah. So you could tell as literally with the word hello.
Hello, Amy. How are you? Yeah. Is your father here?
So this kind of masking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ridiculous.
But that's what goes back to what we were saying perhaps earlier on, that you were acting because you had to act in order to try and cover it up, but you completely overcompensated. So, your dad went from his normal speaking voice into sounding like, guy from Downton Abbey. What's his name?
Hugh Bonneville.
Hugh Bonneville, yeah. So he turned into Hugh Bonneville in order to, I could turn into Donald Trump or something right now.
So good.
I could say, well, I may have had one or two, but they have one or two in China. And then they're all eating cats and dogs. So, so you can, but
that's so good.
You do mask it.
But I still read a room. So if I walk into a room.
Yeah.
Yes. You can just tell.
And I'm always
energy.
on very high alert. So I never really enjoyed as a sort of teenager in my 20s. I didn't love going out. I would only really go out to places I felt very comfortable with people who I really liked.
Like that.
I would not go anywhere. If my friends were going to the Ministry of Sound, I would absolutely not go because I didn't trust it. I didn't trust that something wouldn't happen right in front of me. I was very aware of how things change very quickly and sort of when you throw drugs and alcohol into the mix.
Yeah.
So I've never been.
But is that because with me and that I still can't retrospectively. You talk about Ministry of Sound. My son went to the Ministry of Sound 3 nights ago. He got in at 6 o'clock in the morning. Last time I went to the Ministry of Sound, I fell face forward when I got home into a grate and I smashed my head open. When I got home. But the point I wanted to make was I still have, I don't know if it's anxiety or excitement or somewhere, if I'm going out to something, it's like my feelers are out. I'm not sure. And do other people feel like that? And to what degree do they feel like that? And that's something that you've just said there. I can't get a fix because that's all I've known. And other people look at uncertainty on a night out and they go, wow, we're going to have such a fun, who knows what's going to happen? I'm going like, well, should we try that or should we do that?
We're all going to die and I'm in charge and I've got to look after everyone and keep everyone alive and this is quite a lot for me. That's basically where I would be.
Yeah. Sarah, does that
chime
with you?
When you say about careful where you went out when you was younger, I was exactly the same.
Go on.
I don't know if do you know what? I don't know if it's a COA thing or an ADHD thing, but
it's probably a COA thing because I haven't got ADHD.
Right, okay. So my social battery would run low if I was uncomfortable in an environment. So if I got a vibe, like a certain atmosphere or a feeling, then I would just be flat. And it'd be really difficult for me to kind of come out of that. I still find that I'm like it now.
That might be an ADHD thing because I didn't get that. I sort of feel a responsibility to make sure everybody's having a really lovely time.
Oh, I get that.
And to make sure everybody's safe and looked after.
Now,
yes.
Yeah.
So definitely that kind of hero, clown. I'll always be
Parent.
the one. Yeah. Trying to make sure everybody's well looked after.
See, I get that. If I've ever organised a day out or an evening and I feel like my guests or my friends aren't having a good time, then I take that responsibility. And I wear that and I think, well, I've got to fix it.
Because you're pleasing them.
Yeah. Yeah, we're quite traumatized, really, aren't we? Is that a word?
Well, I mean, we're self-soothing.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
We're self-soothing because I want to make sure that the people around me aren't going to feel the way that I would otherwise feel. So I'm bending over backwards in order to try and make somebody, feel comfortable in a social situation. Because I wouldn't want them to feel the way that I felt.
Mm.
Yeah, I'd rather have a rubbish night
and make sure everyone else is okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also now being sober as well, I think, well, there's a little bit of sanctimony in there as well. Just I am sober, but I'm sure that I am big enough that you can all have a good time.
Yeah.
And I'll drive people home, for example,
So I don't drink anymore and I haven't for about 4 years.
Yeah.
And so if I go out, I'll just say, I don't drink.
Yeah.
But nobody has ever really, one of my big worries about giving up drinking was that everybody was going to ask why I didn't drink. Yeah. But it hasn't really happened. And I don't know if it has for you.
No, people say to me, because I was a huge drinker in my social circle, and I just say, look, I've had enough. I can do the crime, I can't do the time. And I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, blah, blah, blah. And it's been fine. And I don't understand, why people are self-conscious about not drinking. It's poison. If somebody then has a follow-up question, why don't you drink? Or why did you? It's like, yeah, I know it's bad, isn't it? Yeah. And it's just yes. For all those reasons, it was on your spider diagram on the whiteboard at school, yes, all of those. And yet I'll have another drink. But it's your choice, Sorry, Sarah, I interrupted you. You were going to say something.
No.
Should have forgotten anyway.
I've forgotten, yeah.
Right.
So I have some questions. So from doing some work in schools, we ask pupils to submit anonymous questions before I go into a school, which is really interesting because you get a real sense of actually what would they want to know rather than obviously us with our experience. So I've got a couple for you here and I'm going to use your psychotherapist hat. Actually, I'm going to ask you the trickier ones.
All right.
So first up, this was from an 11-year-old.
Yeah.
How do addictions start?
Okay, I'll do the potted science version.
Do the animated version.
I need a pencil. So I think addictions start. I think first of all, we're all walking around here with 2 million-year-old brains, and we are all wired for pleasure and to avoid prey. And I think our modern world gives us so many opportunities to find pleasure in various different things. Most recently, mobile phones, for example. That dopamine release just gets released, and we start to chase that dopamine. And wherever that dopamine can be found, that's where you go. And in terms of alcohol, I think at some point, going into the nature-nurture argument, at some point, something about alcohol that in some people, the tail starts wagging the dog and you start to want to drink, not because you're having a good time, you're just drinking to get rid of the hangover. And then once you've got rid of the hangover, you're drinking to try to you're chasing that high. As Tennessee Williams said, just trying to find that click that to make yourself feel better. It's a bit too highbrow for that question, but that's, I think, addiction start. You know, you have a habit, and then the next level is it becomes an addiction, and there's something biologically that happens. There's some invisible switch that gets flicked, and suddenly you're into a whole other world. But that line, you don't know when you've crossed it. You know, it's like you don't know when you've walked off the cliff. You're like Wile E. Curtis animation.
Yeah.
You've gone off the cliff and you're in the air, and suddenly you don't realize you're not on the ground anymore. And until you've flipped the car, until you got in trouble with the law or something, and then it's like, Jesus, my life really has become unmanageable here. This is a mess. I hope that answers his question.
It does, but now I've got a question which is not from a school. It's sort of based off that. Obviously, you get whole areas in the UK where the rates of alcohol dependency are much higher, for example, and you get kind of multi-generational addictions.
Yes.
Now, we know that a child of an alcoholic is twice as likely to develop their own addictive problem.
Yep.
But again, with your psychotherapist hat, do you think it's some people are more predisposition to it? Do you think it's because it's socially acceptable, or do you think that there's just an assumption that that's what people will do? Because you get whole swathes of communities where they've got kind of low, high deprivation levels, and their rates are much higher than other areas in the UK.
The pat answer to that would be that in a familial setting, you're going to mirror what your parents are doing. And if your parents are managing anxiety and managing difficulties via booze, surprise, surprise, that's what the child is going to do as well. They will mirror the parents' behavior. And then if they're in a community which is also doing that because of its multi-generation, then that becomes the social norm, and they don't see outside of that. And also it's endorsed by the whole of society, including advertising, that it's enabling them to use alcohol as a way of self-soothing and a way of managing anxiety and regulating anxiety. I think that's the pat answer, and a lot of times.
Another question, which is not from a school child. Your children are a little bit older than mine.
Yeah.
And obviously they've developed their own relationships with alcohol. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of something I'm not quite there yet, but heading towards.
Yeah.
So I just wondered what that has been like. So I know when I had some counselling around my dad and some therapy, as I finished with this particular therapist, she just said, I just want you to remember you can always come back. And I think for you, when your children start drinking and going out, I think you may struggle with that. And I just want you to kind of keep that in the back of your head. Mm-hmm. And I can absolutely see it. So I just wondered what that's been like.
Obviously, I have to be very careful about what I say because, it'll have repercussions on them. But for me, it's been bloody hard. I mean, I have written intervention letters, let's put it that way, because I am absolutely on edge about what they're going to get up to. And I'm very aware of the statistics which we're trotting out about everything we've been talking about the likelihood of them getting involved and having problems with booze, and also the very nature of society at the moment with the drugs around as well. And it seems like by any metric, it's a much scarier place. No, it's not scarier, but it's a much more dangerous place out there with drugs and the cocktails that the permutations you can do than it was back in our day. I mean, booze is certainly a lot more expensive. Well, people are doing what they call prees, and so they will bang off, spirits, before they even go out. It's like, I never did that. But then, beer was, £1.50 a pint or something. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't £7 a pint, which is what it is now. So, what's
scary, isn't it?
It really, honestly, I'm really anxious about it. I have been anxious about it, and I know my daughter has pushed the boat out and she seems to be fine. And my son seems to be fine. Their relationship too seems to be fine. But then so was mine at 18, 19, 20, 21 years old.
But would you say you're always on kind of quite hypervigilance around their behaviour?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. How could I not be? I mean, and again, where's the me in a Petri dish that didn't have an alcohol problem? Wouldn't I be as anxious? Would I still be as anxious as I am now? I mean, where does it become a good parent? Where does it become a child of an alcoholic? It's hard to define for me. Would I be more concerned, less concerned?
Yeah, we're sort of at that stage where some of our friends have started allowing their 15-year-olds a small drink.
Yeah.
And obviously that's not necessarily a problem here because I don't drink.
Yeah.
And I can see why they think that's a good idea. I can't find any evidence to suggest it is, but obviously they'll always say, well, that's what they do in France and, you kind of learn your tolerance. But I'm just aware that I'm very uncomfortable around the whole thing already.
Someone once argued with me that they thought it was better to expose them to it than it was to hide it from them, to keep it a taboo. And I weren't sure how I felt about that. Because this is a subject that I think I brush under the carpet. Mine are still so young. My girls are only 9 and 12. So I'm not really thinking about it just yet. But I know when that comes up, I can imagine it's going to be really tough.
Retrospectively, I know that the trickiest times that they went through were times I never even knew about. Places they were at and things that they got up to that I was never told about, or I was actively lied to, as any child would to their parents, right? Now, we've got toys now like Friend Finder, so we know where they are. I just missed that. All right, you've got that, maybe. So.
Yeah.
But we have to navigate that, and I guess that's a hangover from our own experience. I mean, again, we are hardwired to this. We grew up as watchful children, and we have taken that watchfulness, which is now mutated into anxiety around certain situations in life, and there is no version of ourselves where we didn't have that past. So we feel it's normal. That's how we navigate our lives, and that's something that we have to carry. But on the flip side, at least we're not complacent. At least we have firsthand experience of it. If they want to come and talk to us, we can talk honestly about it. And that's a good thing. I mean, trying to pull some wisdom from the wound. And there's an argument to say, well, because we have this experience, because we can have conversations like this, and this is quite a bold statement, but I think that generation is perhaps a little bit more emotionally connected, a little bit more emotionally literate than I was when I was a kid, and certainly more generationally than my parents were. I mean, I think, so I think we can be more open and meet them if they do come to us, rather than have that conversation that you had with your father and I had with my father.
And
what do you think? And you didn't. Yeah, and you absolutely didn't.
Yeah, I don't know. As I say, I'm not there, but I think I'll just have to navigate it in the way I think best. I mean, I'd never lie to them, and they know quite a lot about my experience, and I've certainly never hidden kind of that side of it.
Yeah.
But I also believe they have to make their own choices and their own mistakes.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I'm going to be comfortable with it or enjoy that process.
Yeah.
But I think, we read a lot about generational trauma and things like that. I don't necessarily want my experience and my feelings to impact them. It probably already has. But I don't want it to become this thing where they can't talk to me about it, or they don't do something because it will upset me.
Yeah.
Because of my experience.
Yeah.
I feel quite a responsibility to break that cycle.
Yes. And you can.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about it. I mean, where you wouldn't be, if you were oblivious to it, or if it was taboo, as it was for your father, it seems to be. I mean, he was writing down in those books, but he wasn't addressing it. But we're opening about it. I mean, this podcast is out there going to God knows how many people.
Millions.
Millions. I mean, where is Joe Rogan? He's late, right? I thought he was going to be here right now.
Can you do a Joe Rogan impression? No. Not like you
I can do a Sean Connery impersonation if you like that. You can do that. No, we're opening, we're discussing about it. I think that's one of the things that's happened with society. I mean, courtesy of Callenber's dad, for example. I mean, he was, the poster boy for addiction, and then Gascoigne, and then Merton, and these guys in football. And then we've got, most recently, we've got, Friends.
Matthew Perry.
Yeah.
Matthew Perry's situation, where these are now, and there's TikToks about it and Instagrams about it, and it's becoming part of the conversation, Whereas before it wasn't, and we're all using words like ego and narcissism and inferiority complexes and projection and denial. It's becoming part of the conversation. So I mean, can we just cross fingers and hope that that's going to make us more able to have discussions like this and navigate it?
I hope so.
In a more articulate way.
Mm. Maybe that's a good place to end, crossing our fingers and hoping for the best, which is a classic COA move. It feels really fitting. Well, thank you, Quint.
Yes, thank you.
It's always a pleasure.
Well, thank you, Amy. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank
it's always a
you.
pleasure to be here and talk with you about this, because it's a subject really near to my heart, and I'll do anything for NACOA and anything for COA. It's a fantastic organization, and it's great to play a part. Thank you for having me on the show.
No, thank you. Thanks for coming.
Okay.
All good?
Oh.
My eyes.